It's the wisdom that he brings to it.
I thought it was funny. Parts were really funny.
He's very helpful. In my mind, I said, thank you, Dane. Thank you, Dane.
I ran 52 consecutive weekly marathons and 52 weekends. Sometimes the questions I automatically get are, were you crazy? And I said, no, I promise I wasn't. Maybe I am now. But one of the things I want to talk about, and it's the thing I talk about with all my speeches, is failure, which is kind of funny because this is something that I succeeded at. But the reason I want to talk about failure is because of the fact that we're all going to fail in our lives. I got to where I am now after a massive amount of failings. I wasn't a runner in high school. A lot of people automatically assume I ran when I was in high school and college and things of that nature. I was actually a swimmer in high school. So I had no delusions of grandeur when it came to running. It was not necessarily my forte. Only thing I wanted to do was play football. I wanted to play football at Penn State. So 3 days before my freshman year of college, I shattered my collarbone. So bad that it took me 3 years to recover, to even get close to trying out for the football team at Penn State. But I finally got there. Got to the walk-on tryouts and made it to the final cut before I got cut. And basically it was kind of a failing of sorts. I mean, I didn't get to where I wanted to go. I try to tell people, push yourself, do what you can to reach beyond what you think you can exceed. As I was training, I developed a problem in my quadricep. I had a calcium deposit that I had to actually get removed. So that put my training off, and I had to forfeit the signing up for the race. I had to sign up again for the next year. Went into the race with a goal of running under 3 hours. I figured that's easy. The marathon world record's 2:05. I mean, it's a whole hour slower. 3 hours should be simple, right? Two numbers for you, 129 and 245. 129 was my first half of the marathon, right on pace. I thought, this is great. I actually felt like I was holding myself back. 245 would be a fantastic first marathon for anybody. Unfortunately, that was the second half of my first marathon. And a lot of times people ask me, how do you stay interested? How do you stay motivated for races? I say, pay for them, Nothing is more motivating than money out of your pocket.
Not just the passion that he has for marathoning and the compassion he has for those who do marathoning. It's the wisdom that he brings to it through all the marathons that he's done and the things that he's learned. And he shares that information with us with a sense of joy, a sense of laughter. Those are the things that I enjoy about Dane.
For those of you who know about Boston qualifying standards, you get the time and then the seconds of that minute. For example, you get to run a 3:10:59. I didn't know this. I thought we had to get under 3:10. And I'm running with the pace group leader, and I ran a 3:09:55, and I almost died to get under that 3:10 thing. When we hit the 3:10, I was like, oh, 5 seconds. He's like, oh, you had another 60. I'm like, you knew, and you didn't tell me. Well, I ran the 15K in a personal best. I'm like, oh boy, I'm not good at pacing myself. This is gonna be a disaster. I ran the 5K just 10 seconds off my personal best. I'm like, this is not good at all. The marathon tomorrow is gonna go horribly. Get up, run the race, ran a 3:10. I ran 30 seconds slower than my personal best. And this is where a light bulb went off. I'm thinking, that shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have been able to do that. But for whatever reason, I run very well with very little recovery. The less I rest, the better I'm doing. So after all these previous failures, I finally have a success. So I decided, let's see if this is true. Let's see if this isn't just a fluke. So I scheduled 4 marathons in the next 47 days. I qualify for Boston in every single one of them.
He's basically proven that anyone can do it, and that to me as a coach, I'm a coach as well, is pretty important. It's important for people to realize that you don't have to be elite to run marathons, and Dane is proven that.
It's funny because I look now back at my originally 52 marathons that I had planned. I only ran 10 of those. 42 others changed because of weather, because of costs to myself, or because of many of the other things that pop up in life. Well, one of them was put on by a marathon by a group in Mobile, Alabama. It was called L'Arche, L'Arche. It's French for the Ark, like Noah's Ark. And what they do is they work with people who have mental and physical handicaps. And I was like, wow, I've worked with people who have developmental disabilities multiple times in the past in terms of church groups and things of that nature. and I've never heard of you. I guarantee you other people haven't heard of you if I haven't. So, you know what? I was kind of doing this for myself, but if I don't use this platform that I'm inevitably going to have to help other people, it'd be kind of a waste. So I said, would you mind if I ran on your behalf? And they're like, okay. Like the most nonchalant, sure, you're going to do 50 marathons? All right. I learned what they were doing was a lot what people had done to me the entire year. They're like, sure, you're going to run 52 marathons. I wanted to run fast marathons, and I wanted to run real marathons. And by that, I mean, I thought that perhaps if I came across the weekend where there were no marathons, I would just run on a treadmill. Or I'd find a 5K course and run it 9 times and round up. But then I realized what makes a marathon is not just 26.2 miles. It's not the distance. It's running that distance on the same day as the rest of the runners, in the same weather, in the same conditions, having to deal with exactly what they deal with. So I said, you know what? If there's no marathon anywhere on the planet, I've got to make one. So I became a race director on top of everything else. Sometime in July, I started putting together the idea. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have this marathon in my hometown. Haven't seen my parents whole year. I want to see them. So the Drake Well Marathon was born. It's amazing what you can accomplish if you really put your mind to it. There are a lot of things we can't succeed at. Trying is not one of them. Now I speak to people all the time and I hear about, I just spoke to a woman who had a brain aneurysm and now she's doing half marathons. The Drake Well Marathon was 105.5 laps in my high school track. Let that sink in. Sounds like the worst thing you could possibly imagine, right? I guarantee you it wasn't bad at all. There's no surprises, you know, there's no surprise hill at mile 21. You know, when the person says, hey, you're almost there, you can go, no, I'm not, you know? The guy who finished dead last said it was his most favorite marathon of all time. And I said, you're just telling me that because I'm your friend. He's like, no. He's like, I was always only 400 meters away from the leader and I felt like I could catch him. Raised $43,000 for L'Arche at the end of the year. When I finished this entire year, it was just a pure elation. I mean, I was able to set forth and do exactly what I wanted to do. The sport has given me so much, and this is my way of giving back. I've created an event called Charity Chaser, where I start dead last, and then every person I pass raises money for a local charity. And so at the Pittsburgh Marathon last year, there were about 9,500 marathoners, half marathoners, and marathon relayers. And I passed all but 161 of them. So I raised about $40,000 in one day for the Pittsburgh Promise, which gives full scholarships to inner city youth. So in one day, I basically sent a kid to college. I tried my first 100-mile race the next year. I was leading the race at one point, fell back to second place, and had to pull out at mile 87. My friends were like, well, couldn't you do 13 more miles? I'm like, I stopped at mile 75. I did 12 more on adrenaline and just not wanting to fail. But I did fail. And you know, the thing is, there's nothing wrong with failure. Failure is rarely fatal and even less so final. Last weekend, ran a 50-mile race. It was a week after I got sick, set the course record, and won the entire thing. Failure helped me learn what to do with some of these races and realize sometimes you can't control fate. It's just what's going to happen.
Stopped by his booth and we began to talk, and I got excited about what he did, and he seemed excited about what I was trying to do. So I bought the book. Well, that night I went to bed before the marathon, which you notoriously don't sleep well, and I began to read Dane's book, and I was so energized. I went to sleep smiling. I got up the next day at that Long Beach Marathon quite relaxed, and I began to run it, check my time, and over the course I thought, I think I'm going to qualify for Boston. I hadn't before. I had tried, and believe it or not, that day in 2009 in October at the Long Beach Marathon, having just met Dane, I did what I had wanted to do, and you're not going to believe this, but I had 58 seconds to spare.
That's what I'm trying to impart upon everybody, is find what you're good at in life. Not just in athletics, but just in life. Find what it is and do it. If you push yourself and you fail, that's fine. You know, we tell our children, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. That's a good thing to tell children. The reality is, there's a lot of stuff we can't do. I'm never gonna dunk a basketball. It's just not happening. I have 0 ups, okay? But the thing is, I know the one thing I can always do is try. tomorrow when you go out there, whether you're doing the bicycle, the 5K, the half marathon, the marathon, any of the races, if you just give your best, you know you've succeeded that day. That's a success. You know, there's little successes in life, and they add up. And so I hope you take from what I've said today and realize how much I failed up into my successes, and how much, you know, you will fail as well, because, well, life's about a lot of failures, but it's also about succeeding if you put your mind to it.